call to order the scheduled June 27th meeting of the Groveland Township Planning Commission. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming. Got a fairly simple agenda tonight. Why don't we begin with the roll call? Danielle?
John Zine,
Here.
Neil Wallen,
Here.
David Newbell,
Here.
Lynn Shank,
Yes, ma'am.
Jenny McKay, here, Jim Christopher,
Here.
and Angela Willis is excused.
Okay, we'll begin with the review of today's agenda, which I know everybody has had an opportunity to see. That was included in the packet. If there's any comments, questions, revisions, I would entertain them now. Otherwise, I'd welcome a motion to approve.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from 5/23/23 regular PC meeting.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of approving today's agenda?
You're approving the agenda or the minutes?
Minutes.
No, agenda.
I said
He was doing the
minutes.
agenda.
You're doing the minutes.
I said minutes, and I apologize, so
Oh,
I make a motion that we approve today's agenda. I thought you said minutes, so.
and David, you second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Now on to the minutes for our last scheduled meeting of May 23rd. Those were circulated just before the meeting. If everyone needs a chance to review those, we could do so. I would actually like a minute myself. I haven't seen these previous. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from our last scheduled meeting?
Yes.
I make a motion that we do approve the minutes from our May 23rd, 23 regular PC meeting.
I guess I'll second that one
Okay, all those in favor of accepting the minutes of the 5/23/23 regular PC meeting, in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, the motion is approved. Next item on the agenda for tonight is the public hearing. So at this time, I would move that we would open the public hearing for special use permit number SU 23-001 for the Michigan Renaissance Festival 2023 season at 7:07. Okay. Second? Second, Neil. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're now in public hearing. Okay, The minutes from our last meeting, that I just kind of glossed over, kind of reflect a culmination, I guess would be a good word, of efforts on the part of the festival, collaboration with the planning commission, in weeks and even months leading up to that meeting. I was personally encouraged, and I came away with a reassured sense of commitment to the ultimate outcome on behalf of the festival. So, Chip, nice job.
Thank you.
On behalf of the commission. But the purpose here tonight, obviously, is to garner a recommendation or a denial of the request for the special use permit for this year's event. I had two, and I see them reflected in the minutes. I just had two concerns, I guess, that I wanted to take up tonight. The first being the row analysis of the peak weekend. That was taken from the data that they collected from last year's event, and we discussed kind of in some detail at last meeting the fact that the peak weekend that Roe had selected was not in fact the highest attendance weekend. So I don't know if there had been an opportunity by yourself or Roe or anybody to kind of reset the analysis.
I sent you guys an email.
You did?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's easy. Remember, I wasn't kidding when I said there's an 80-page report. It wasn't a joke.
So obviously,
You can restate that.
However,
Obviously-
to your defense, Mr. Benjamin, we did not get that report until yesterday, so,
okay,
I got it this afternoon.
yeah.
okay.
And I don't look at emails.
Has my fellow commissioners had a chance to review it? No?
I've gone through it.
Okay.
I've seen concerns you had. At the time, they had picked a lower volume day initially, September 4th, and in the updated report that we just received today, they have rerun some data with the October 1st ticket volume, which was the peak ticket volume day, 26,074, and they've rerun the analysis on what they call LOS, which was it's the amount of time amount of time you have to get your car into traffic. And they had a limit of approximately 50 seconds. And with the rerun data, they found one data point, vehicles exiting Renfest, not entering Renfest, that exceeded the 50-second target. The rest of the data they felt looked acceptable. I did have some concerns about their analysis from the standpoint of, we take the data, the number of tickets sold on peak day. Their analysis says there shouldn't be any issue with traffic entering the festival, yet we had issues with traffic entering the festival. Their conclusion was they saw no issue. I disagreed with that. I felt their analysis needed more from the standpoint of where was the bottleneck. And I think your solution to the bottleneck is internal to the Renfest,
Right.
with the things you're gonna talk about, roads
Correct.
and whatnot. My takeaway from this was that the traffic flow has the potential to move those cars if they're not bottlenecked once they're inside the Renfest. That was my takeaway from it.
Correct.
So again, I disagreed with their summary. I felt they could have put a little more thought into the why, because we know in reality we did have bottlenecks last year. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Neil. I guess I would solicit, some discourse from yourself, Chip.
Sure.
I'm assuming you could maybe summarize or bring us up to speed on what the supplemental findings of Roe would be on.
So if
On
you
that
would
point.
actually like, Ms. Haley Savola, sitting right back there, who actually wrote that report. The young lady right here in the white shirt.
And what is your name, ma'am? I'm sorry.
Haley Savola,
And spell that for Ms. Wilcox.
Hailey My last name is Savla, S as in Sam, A as in Apple, V as in Victor, OLA.
Thanks.
And you're employed with Rowe,
I am,
and
yep.
you did the supplemental
Correct.
report? Okay. So if you could elaborate, I guess, for our benefit,
Yep.
you know, the content of your supplemental report.
Yeah, really there wasn't a change, try to do it in layman's terms, there was really not a change from the first report to the second report, with the data. It still shows that the issue is an internal issue, which is a parking issue, getting the cars in, getting them parked, getting them where they need to go, that's the bottleneck. There is, the public road system operates at an acceptable level of service. And that actually does make sense because there's no traffic signals that are stopping it. It's free flow movement on Dixie Highway, other than the vehicles turning in and out of the driveways for the Renaissance Festival.
Okay. When you say internal, you mean,
Internal to the
Within the-
Renaissance Festival, so not on the public roads.
okay.
So does that give you what you're
It-
looking for,
It
or?
doesn't, I, personally, I just wish I would've, had a chance to digest this,
Yeah.
to
So-
be honest with you.
Realistically, the traffic on Dixie Highway is north-south, and those movements are not stopping when they get to the intersections or the driveways. If you're going south or north and you're not turning into the driveways, you're not stopping. So that's the way this analysis works, is it looks at the intersections of the driveways as how many vehicles are stopping and how long they have to stop. And usually, if there's a signal there, it would be worse, because then everyone's having to stop when that traffic control's there. Since there's no traffic control, it's a free flow movement, so that means that north and south are not stopping. They can just keep going. There wasn't an issue based on the analysis. Now, I know a couple days that were not good, there was backups, but based on the analysis and using the data that's standard for traffic engineering, there is not an issue on the public road system, based on level of service and delay, which is standard for traffic engineering analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for your report, thank you for being here tonight, we
Yeah, no
appreciate
problem.
that. So I guess, you know, if we could join your findings with, Mr. Abel, you're here again, welcome, thank you for coming. Richie, correct?
Awesome.
Okay. So you heard the assessment with regard to this internal issue that Roe identified as not.
No pressure on me, but yeah, you sure got it.
Because that's obviously, as I've been very transparent about, that's always been my primary concern, and I think that's really a pivotal, change that the festival has undertaken for this year's event, but can you speak to the internal issue that she's describing?
From what Chip has told me, the hours and hours, and Jim has told me, I always assumed it was gonna be that way. Because once they pull in, if they're not gonna be parked in an expedient, fast way, it's gonna get on the Dixie Highway. So I get it, I get it.
I live on Dixie Highway, I know all about it.
Yeah.
So as part of your presentation, Chip, I know you had some schematics that kind of depicted the outlay of some new roads in the north lot, I guess that would be the King's lot, is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? And then also in the Queen's lot, you have the south, so I guess some new traffic flow internally. Richie,
What happens when it's sold out and they don't want any more people?
well, I think we're gonna get to that, sir, we're gonna, I
Because that's what
appreciate,
happens.
I appreciate that.
And the analysis from Perryville Road, 'cause that's a stop sign. There's a mile of cars coming from that.
That was included.
That was included in the traffic.
Perryville Road, the Perryville Road intersection with the Renaissance Festival driveway was included. Based on the analysis, the public road system operated at an acceptable level of service.
I'll disagree with that. I couldn't get a fire department to my house.
We'll have public comments at the end.
Just want to get that.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
So I guess just back to the changes that have been, you know, announced for this year's event. Have you had a chance, Haley, to consider those changes as it pertains to this you know, the supplemental findings, how the new configuration of the roads that have been added?
We haven't shared that with her yet.
You have not, okay.
I don't think I have I?
No, and honestly, the traffic analysis, the way a traffic analysis works, we wouldn't really do anything internal.
I got you.
It would be just the public road system and those driveways and how the traffic's getting in and out. As far as their parking operation, we're not reviewing that, I guess, other than providing maybe our thoughts on it.
Okay. Does anyone else have any,
What?
questions?
I do. What is the title of Haley's report? I haven't had a chance to see it.
I think it's just, it's more or less a letter, addressed to Mr. Peterson.
Okay.
I don't know, Haley, what's the title of your
Yep,
report?
so it's the way these traffic reports are is it's a letter format, and the subject of the letter is Michigan Renaissance Festival Traffic Analysis, revised October 1st, 2022 review.
Okay, so Haley, is this just a review of the capacity of the county roads?
This is just a review of the study area, which were the driveways for the Renaissance Festival. And then we did a review of Dixie Highway and Laring Road. So there was 4, I'm gonna call them intersections, but 4 driveways / intersections that were part of the study area. And that was approved by your consultant that helped us with the scoping.
Okay.
So the way a traffic analysis works, it is capacity. So you look at the level of service, an A through F, and that's based on the delay that vehicles are having to stop on the system. And then it's also, we looked at queue length, which is how many vehicles are stacking during the peak hours.
Okay, I'm a little bit naive with this, I'm
Yeah.
not being humble. What is the value of this?
I mean, this is giving you what the current road is operating as, what the capacity of that road is. Right now, the capacity of Dixie Highway during this study period is that it operates acceptable.
Okay, so it helps to validate the road system works as function and validate that the issue is inside the property lines.
Yeah, and then like,
that are
let's say
right
there was, from the study, you know, Dixie Highway and Laring Road, the southbound movement was completely stopped. There was, 200 seconds of delay. Then that would kick into, okay, what do we need to do to fix that? Is it a traffic signal? Is it adding more lanes? Is it widening the roadway? So that's what that's what a capacity analysis does, is you look to see where you rank in that level of service and then determine if there's any improvements that can be made. Sometimes there's not, sometimes it's just, unfortunately, sometimes there's no improvements to be made, but it looks at the road system or driveways, for a development or a public road, and try to determine if there's improvements that need to be made.
Okay, so any calculations, if there are any, to be made in terms of what I would call absorption onto the site would come from Mr. Adler?
Yeah, so we just looked at the driveway, the operation of in and out of the driveways, and then the public road system. Anything as far as once they got into the driveways, that would be part of the parking consultants.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, not a problem.
So Haley, just so I'm clear, in doing your report, you applied the data that, referred to the traffic counts for the highest attendance weekend, that being October 1st of 2022?
So we did not, we were approved to do traffic counts that weekend of September 4th. So we don't have any traffic counts that day. So we utilized the traffic counts from September 4th and then adjusted the movements in and out of the driveways based on the peak hour ticket volumes from October 1st. And unfortunately, that's the only way we can do it since we don't have actual traffic data on the road for October 1st.
So you had to go from a known data set and kind of extrapolate to a hypothetical? Okay.
Yep.
I understand.
So it honestly is a hypothetical situation, but it does show the appropriate vehicles coming in and out of the driveways.
So what we did, sir, was I provided Haley with the amount of people that came in that day, the 26,701. And then I went into our, we use a company called eTick to scan people who pre-buy their tickets and come up to the gate, and then they're scanned, and it's a great tool because it shows at 9 o'clock, maybe 70 people were scanned, and then as the time went on, I think between 11 and 2 o'clock that day was our peak scanning time. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then we tapered off after 2 o'clock. So I provided her with that information as well, because in sense, if that's our peak scanning time is 1 o'clock, then chances are more than likely our peak traffic time was also 1 o'clock. So just so we're being transparent on where she obtained that information.
Okay. Did you have something to add?
I was just saying, but Chip, wouldn't it be like 20 minutes before they clocked in?
Yes.
Well,
Right.
yeah, we're in the ballpark.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments regarding the supplemental report from Ms. Savaggio?
Satellite.
Sabalo. Okay. The other carryover concern I had was the agreement with the lead parking, and I know that was.
Oh, yeah.
That was provided in heavily redacted form, but I did see that. And I guess just one question for the both of you, if I could find it. A lot of the compensation parameters are redacted, which I understand. I guess my concern, just based upon the limited information that was shared, is staffing.
We're gonna,
And you're gonna, okay.
it's in the program, it's in the.
Okay, so this is, at some point tonight, we're gonna turn this back over to you, Chip, and you're gonna.
Talk about it.
So I will table that concern for now. Those were my, I guess, questions, just with regard to the takeaways from the last meeting. If anyone else had anything to add?
I agree with the letter of understanding with the lead. It was,
Well, there are some things to be shared and some things that are not.
and I agree money should not.
Well, we'll leave it to Mr. Schultz to allay any concerns. I guess at this point, if there's no other questions, comments, concerns from my fellow commissioners, I would invite you to take the floor, Chip.
Thank you. Again, thank you very much for allowing us to do this presentation. On behalf of Mr. Peterson, who couldn't be here today, he's got some family stuff that he's dealing with, and he would like to be here, but unfortunately he cannot be here. As you can see, I do have Mr. Albo and his son.
1 second.
We'll have to close the public hearing first if you guys are done.
So the public comment comes,
Everything comes after. You have to open the public hearing, discuss the questions that you guys had.
okay.
He talks, normally, the presentation normally isn't there, but it is now. So we close the public hearing, make a motion to close the public hearing, and then he can do his presentation, because we don't want that on the public hearing. And then after he's done, we can follow the agenda, and then public comments at the end.
Okay, so that being said, I would at this time move that we close the public hearing for special use permit SU 23001 for the Michigan Renaissance Festival for the 2023 season
I'll second it.
at 7:27. Thank you, Bob. We have a second. All those in favor of the motion to close the public hearing? Aye. Any opposed? There being none, the motion is approved. We're now, we're closed, or the public hearing is now closed. So I guess if you wanna continue with the
Perfect.
presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Quincy.
Thank you.
Again, we have Mr. Albo and his son Cal here tonight with the lead parking. Haley's here from Rowe Engineering. The Sheriff's Department did not have a representative for us tonight. Sergeant Miller, who was here at the previous meeting, had a pre-assigned training that he's not in the county right now for. But I'm confident that if you have any questions about the Sheriff's Office, I should be able to answer that question for you. I would hope. So, Michigan Renaissance Festival, 2023 season. Traffic and parking didn't work as well as we hoped it would have in 2022. We concluded that the failure was in part because vehicles were not parked effectively. Last season, we started out strong with sufficient staffing. In the opening weekends, however, we were unable to keep staffing levels high enough to successfully park vehicles in those closing weekends. And I should also give you guys a caveat, we did change some wording.
Okay.
We didn't take anything out, but we did change some wording to the presentation from the last one. Hopefully also to clear up some stuff. That conclusion is also supported by the report prepared by Rowe Engineering, which we did hear Haley talk about. We further conclude that a new parking plan will work. Our changes for 2023, we have retained the services of Elite Parking. We did some researching of meeting multiple professional parking companies. We have chosen Elite Parking, who we feel has the proper attitude and the abilities for a successful parking season. They're a local company. They have impeccable references, including a letter from the Sheriff's Office. 15 years of parking at the Orchard Lake St. Mary's Festival. The owner has himself 30 plus years of parking experience and will be on site every day of the event to make sure that everything's going smooth. Mr. Abo has 100 dedicated and trained employees to draw from. Elite will be responsible to develop and execute a new internal traffic and parking plan. They will be responsible to staff and manage the day-to-day parking operations of the Michigan Renaissance Festival. One, they'll have a detailed hourly schedule of staff, positioning of staff. Key management present at all times. The vast majority of the hours will be staffed with 40 people. So on those days that we know we're gonna have some peak attendance days, we're gonna have 40 people. 20 people to a side, 20 people in the King's lot, 20 people to the Queen's lot. This is a huge endeavor and something that we feel has lacked in the last few years, which is also what led to our problems with traffic. We had to use deputies to help control traffic in the internal part of the parking, so they were not able to be out on Dixie Highway doing what they were actually contracted for. And when you have 5 people in the Queen's lot trying to park cars, that's gonna create a lot of problems. And having the volume of staff this year in both parking lots is gonna be a huge bonus for festival to get those cars parked and moved along. The key thing is getting those cars moved along. Mr. Abo and I have actually also discussed, I'm going to, and as you'll see in this presentation, we're gonna be tracking those attendance days starting day 1. We're gonna be looking at the weather. We're gonna be assessing what happened over the weekend. I may call up Mr. Abo and say, hey, listen, this weekend we're supposed to have some really beautiful weather. I'm noticing that the attendance is down maybe because of some of the weather. What do you think about adding some staff? So we're gonna add, we might even add to that 40, just to make sure that the parking lot is covered the way that they should be. This is the biggest key in all of this. It's gonna be the number of people parking vehicles that we've never had in the past. Another parking change. This year we're gonna be charging for parking. Parking passes will be available to purchase online. That actually should be going up. I just got our company our eTick, our ticket company to create the link. That's gonna be on the website by the end of this week. It'll also, here in a second. Patrons will show their parking pass or purchase a parking pass, but only after they've been parked. It's not gonna be stop at the gate and pay. They're gonna actually, Richie and his crew are gonna park the car, and I have a whole nother company, staff of people, 16 to 20 people a day. They're gonna be kind of leapfrogging from car to car, either scanning the pre-purchase pass or collecting money from them. That will only take place once they are parked and not interfering with parking. How are we gonna get that word out? I think Mr. Laughlin asked me this question at the last meeting. This is our social media. We have 197,660 people that follow us on Facebook, 15,198 people on Instagram, 2,500 Twitter, 650 on Snapchat. So that is gonna be one of our means. That's gonna be almost a daily thing, making people know that, you know, this year we're charging for parking. Our website will also have it. And I think if you go and look at our website now, we've taken down all of the free parking that was on there. I found a couple that were still there, but I actually had those removed, I think, right after the last meeting. So we have a huge base of followers that do get on our social media and pay attention to what's going on. Parking plans. Plan A, this is a light traffic day, no backups on Dixie Highway. Elite parking along the sheriff's office will park both the Kings lot and Queens lot simultaneously. We do have the map boards over here. If people want to take a look, I also have it in here. Plan B, those are gonna be our heavier days, our medium to heavier traffic days. Again, elite parking along with the sheriff's office will split traffic and simultaneously park multiple areas within both the Kings lot and Queens lot. The Queens lot, in the Queens lot, a deputy on Dixie Highway will be positioned to start sending cars into the lot using the new, what we call the exit. If we feel that we need to get those cars off of Dixie Highway a little bit faster that are coming north, we're gonna open up the exit and start parking a third lot inside our Queens lot. We'll also split the Kings lot in half as well, and we'll start parking two different areas of that lot as well. Plan C, this is the day we hope we don't have to come to. Heavy traffic days, Kings and Queens lot nearing capacity. The decision that will close the gates will be evaluated, and the gates closed, the procedure will be activated if necessary. The next screen, but hey, let's talk about it. Creation of new roads. We're in the process of creating new roads internally to make that traffic plan work the way that we're wanting to do it. We're going to expand the entrance of the front gate by about 10 to 15 feet to help get some of that traffic that's coming south on Dixie Highway to make it a little bit easier to turn. And that, we're thinking, will also help start dividing the traffic once it's inside. We can refer to the site map. So this is the site map that we're talking about. This is the Kings lot, or the north lot. This is the one that if you're coming south on Dixie Highway, you'll enter to. Upon entering this parking lot, you see the green highlighted at the bottom. That's gonna be the new road that's going in. It's gonna go back north up along the road, or the fence line of Dixie Highway. So the traffic will come in there. It's gonna skirt along Laring Road, and then we'll start parking along the fence line that we currently have right there. And then we'll start parking those cars as it's coming this way. In the past, it might help answer the last year's traffic problems. In the past, oh, I forgot I had this. In the past, we would bring those cars down this road and we would start parking them here. So what would happen is this traffic would back up on the Dixie Highway once we got closer to Dixie Highway. The thought process right now is, by bringing the cars in off of here and taking them over here, we're not gonna have cars backing up onto the main road here, right onto Dixie Highway. We're literally got about a mile and a half. Can you see my?
We can't see it. I think it's too light.
No, he's missing the board, you're
Am I-
shooting it under it.
I can see it. I think it's straight on.
It's showing up or it won't be active.
So, that's when we had our traffic backups, in that one. Queens lot. So the Queens lot, this is where a lot of our backups were created, were here. And the plan for this year is going to be, sorry if I may be right. The traffic will come in here. We're gonna split them in 2 lanes, starting right about this junction right here, because we need to get our handicaps and our motorcycle people over into the Kings lot. That's the only place we have parking for that. So what will happen is cars will come in here, they're gonna split into 2 lanes, they're gonna come all the way down here. One lane will go left, one lane will go right. We're gonna bring them back to our walking path. And then we're gonna start parking those cars towards the back fence line. In the past, we brought these cars in, we started parking them here and moving this way towards Dixie Highway. It only makes sense that if we're moving closer to Dixie Highway, we're forcing those cars onto Dixie Highway. So by making that change, we believe this is gonna be another huge difference for us, plus 40 to 20 people in this parking lot helping park it. If we get to Plan B, I talked about our exit being open. We'll then open this, the deputy will be positioned here, cars will come in here, then we're gonna start parking this lot. We'll send cars, once this is, he's gonna send cars here, we'll also keep sending cars here, parking that lot, and that lot simultaneously. This gives us about 3 to 3.5 miles worth of traffic off of Dixie Highway and onto the festival grounds itself.
Chip, before you change it,
Sure.
is the leftmost driveway, is that the new access road that was?
Right here at the
there?
bottom?
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Right here?
correct, that's the new access road?
That's the new exit.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And that's a nice, if no one's been down there, it's a nice long driveway, so that will accommodate a lot of cars if we have to.
That's the one closest to the trailer park.
Yes, sir.
The entrances that you have, is that open to, right straight across from Perryville, or are they,
Yes.
so what are you gonna do with the traffic that comes down Perryville Road and wants to enter?
Hopefully we don't have traffic coming down here.
You're gonna
But
have
you
it.
know as well as I do.
You're gonna have
The
it.
GPS is gonna take people that way, and there's nothing we're gonna be able to do about that. There's gonna be a deputy there. The plan is, and the same thing that I saw done last year, that maybe other people didn't see done, they will be waived. They're gonna have to go either north or south, there's no going straight ahead, if they're coming to festival.
Is there a way to tell people not to come down that way, that they are going to be diverted, there's no entrance
There's,
from Perryville Road?
so, we cannot legally, from my understanding, put signs up stating no festival traffic. Now, we did that last year. I put 2 signs at, Trip and Van, right?
I don't remember seeing it.
I put 2 signs there. It didn't work. People don't listen. They'll ignore it because they're gonna follow their GPS.
Just like the signs you guys put up to say go to exit 106.
Right. But we can't, I would love to put those signs.
Just like your Instagram and all that, people can't, they just don't follow.
Yeah, we can't.
Sell
And we've
tickets.
looked into if there's a possibility that we could override waves and
Well, I guess I'd like to
Google
ask,
Maps, but it's not possible.
so with all the followers that you have, if you keep the entrance across from Perryville Road closed and let them know there is no access from Perryville Road, that might deter some of them. Now, just the other point last summer was, I was coming down Dixie, going north, so I turn on Perryville Road. I have to stop in the outside lane so people can try to make a left into the trailer park.
So
I'm
it's,
sorry, we're gonna do public comments.
yeah, I was just
After
gonna
the
say,
presentation, okay?
I appreciate your concerns, I welcome them, but we're gonna let Mr. Schultz continue with the presentation and
Sorry.
just reserve all of those inquiries for the conclusion.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other big change, so we're 2 changes so far, right? We're hiring a professional parking company, 40 people a day, to assist in parking. We're charging for parking, and if I didn't say it during that slot, I apologize. The whole purpose of that is it's been my experience the last couple of years of being the one in the parking lot. I've been noticing a lot of 1 and 2 people to a car, where in the past we would get 4, 5, 6. The hope is that by charging for parking, people will carpool instead of coming those 1s and 2s to the festival and start being more family oriented again, like we had in the past. The next big change is the complimentary ticket policy. Significant decrease in complimentary tickets redeemed on the last 3 weekends will reduce the attendance for those weekends. Marketing is to have no more than 500 comp tickets set aside to use for the last 3 weekends of festival. In 2022, we had a total of 35,713 complimentary tickets redeemed through the weekends of 1 through 7, every weekend. 28% of the comp tickets were redeemed the first 4 weekends. 72% were redeemed in the last 3. That's a huge number, and if we would have taken those comp ticket numbers out of the total attendance, I can tell you right now that 26,701 day would have only been 19,000 people. So this is another huge step that festival is taking to reduce the amount of traffic, people on those last 3 weekends. This is the complimentary ticket that will be handed out. If anybody's seen one of our tickets before, this is different because it's a vertical instead of horizontal. And it does state right on there, those are the only days it's good for. And not valid for the weekends of 5 through 7,
Except Friday.
except Festival Friday, yes. So this is the screen that was supposed to be after Plan C. If we go to Plan C, we're gonna have 10 of these signs that will be placed out on Dixie Highway. I've already talked to Chief Mason at the fire hall. One of these signs will be at the fire station. The fire department will deploy it out for me if we need to, right at the corner of Grange Hall and Dixie Highway, instructing people that the festival is closed due to capacity. Last year, I know the question, well, what happened last year? Why didn't cars keep on going? Because those people didn't realize that we were the gates were closed. Probably shouldn't have been, but that's a whole nother story. And they could see that we had parking spots available just by looking into the parking lot. So they didn't want to leave. They went and found places to go. By us putting these signs out, clearly saying festival closed due to capacity, the hope is that those people will be able to read that sign and keep on moving. The parking lot protocol. In the unlikely occurrence of the parking lots, the Michigan Restaurant Festival approaching capacity, the festival will close its gates for the remainder of the day or until sufficient parking spaces become available. This is the following procedure. Mr. Abo from Elite Parking will contact me and let me know that, hey Chip, we're starting to approach, that we may have the parking lot full here within the matter of 45 minutes. We're gonna get with the sheriff's office, we're gonna take a look at Dixie Highway, what's the traffic look like? Are we backed up sufficiently to know that we probably only have about 45 minutes left? Festival staff will prepare to deploy those signs. Sheriff's deputies on Dixie Highway will be given a notice. They'll also put signs by their patrol cars. Upon execution of the closing of the gates, I will be changing the digital signs that we have on Dixie Highway and I-75 to read festival closed due to capacity. The sheriff's deputies will then start monitoring Dixie Highway and enforce the no parking ordinance where applicable. If needed, fire towing will be dispatched to impound any vehicles that are in a no parking zone. Vehicles will be towed, I believe I still have to get with Kevin, down to the Groveland Township Fire Station. They have a little impound lot there and people can get their cars from there. This protocol will continue until the parking lot has been cleared enough to safely, keyword is safely, allow parking to resume. So 2023 traffic adjustments significantly increase the amount of signage notifying patrons of the route and lanes to use when approaching the festival. Again, some of those areas we may not be able to do that. The plan is we're going to get some those election type signs on the metal stands.
They could go outside of the precinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have arrows directing people to the festival. I believe the thought process right now is starting down at the south end Dixie Highway in Springfield Township. We're gonna put those signs out on the curbs where we can to direct people so that we're not getting to Grange Hall Road and making that right or becoming a different route. I still won't be able to help them with their GPS, but at least we're gonna put the signs out there directing people which way to properly go. Digital signs will be controlled by me again this year. They're gonna be at southbound I-75 north of exit 106. Also near, northbound I-75 at exit 93. There's also one that gets placed out in front of the Groveland Fire Station #1, as well as, the Parker's residence on, Dixie Highway. And again, like I said, we're gonna increase the amount of ground signs to direct patrons to the festival in an attempt to keep them off of all secondary roads. Here's the digital signs that we'll be using. That's just our agreement with State Barricade. It's just showing the lines that we put in the parking lot last year that actually are still there. Pretty good. Those will be painted so that Mr. Avo and his team can effectively park the parking lots efficiently. Again, with the Queens lot, we're also gonna be lining cones all the way down that road to keep the traffic separate so that we don't have any crossover or people wanting to just go wherever they feel like it. We're also gonna increase the amount of signage within the festival itself to give people a better idea of which directions to travel. Better understanding of where the handicap parking is, where the motorcycle parking is. That is a huge, if you haven't stood right there to watch it happen, a lot of people come in, they're not paying attention. We had these little handicap signs. This year there's gonna be a big sign, 4x8 sheet of plywood, handicapped and motorcycle parking that way. So when people come into the south lot off of Dixie Highway, they'll be able to clearly see that sign and get in the right side of the road and make that turn instead of having to go all the way in the south lot, turn around, which then also delays us from parking. So we're gonna get some better signs up there. We're gonna get some better exit signs in the parking lot itself as well. Some of the signs that we're gonna be utilizing this year. This is just a map showing where the signs are gonna be. That map's also in the back corner. I would be willing to bet we're actually gonna add about 10 more signs to both parking lots to make sure people are aware of where we want them to go. Sheriff's Office. Sheriff's Office will be on scene every day. They will be following the Michigan compiled laws, MCL 257.602, which complies with the order for direction of a police officer. Also 257.606, which is an impound of an illegal parked vehicle. They'll be enforcing all of those when we have to get to the point that hopefully we don't have to close the gates and have people parking where they shouldn't be. But those are the laws that they're gonna follow to comply with and take action. They'll also be monitoring the local side streets to avoid any parking of patrons and towed if need be. And the township ordinance will be followed to the T. This is just a letter from Bucky Mr. Byers from Byers Towing stating that he is contracted with the sheriff's office and will be available 24/7 when we need him. Community relations. We know this is huge. This is something that we've tried doing in the past, and I'm not sure it's been succeeded. But we're gonna give it another shot this year. Residents who live within close proximity, again, will be given the high visibility window flag to be recognized by the sheriff's office for a smoother ingress and egress off their road. Festival will create a database for those residents who reside in those affected secondary roads to keep an open line of communication and address any concerns they may have. Residents will be given we're gonna say a key festival manager's contact to utilize. We all know who that key manager is. He's the one standing in front of you. Did you guys get my email? Okay. We have, I do have the addresses for the residents that this affects, and we will be drafting a letter to be sent out, just asking name, address, email, phone number if they want to provide it, and then they'll also be given my contact information to contact me. And I would ask that if it's something that might be able to wait until Monday, give me a call or shoot me an email, but if it's something that you think I need to know right now, call me. I want that phone call, because if I don't know there's a problem, I can't fix the problem right then and there. And if it's a problem with the sheriff's office, we can fix that problem right then and there. There's the flag. Positive results from last year. South parking lot exit was great. That parking, having that new exit road in was a godsend for us because we weren't bottlenecking the entrance into the south lot because people weren't leaving and trying to come in at the same time. And they're able to get out on the Dixie Highway and out of the parking lot at a pretty quick rate. Digital signs were controlled by me. The use of the signs, the road commission put out on Perryville and Larry Road, which I have to ask, have they been cleaned yet? Have they been trimmed? No? I did send an email to the gentleman in charge of that, and he's gonna get a crew out there. Is it? So I did talk to Alex, and he's gonna send somebody out there to trim those up. Parking lot will have highly visible lanes marked to ensure proper spacing of vehicles in the parking lot in compliance with the township ordinance. And then once again, the continued use of the highly visible VIP township resident flag. Township communication, again, this is another thing that I believe that we may have been lacking in the past years, and we really need to improve that, and I think we've so far have done a fairly good job leading up to tonight. But a designated festival representative, again, that'll probably be me, we'll meet Tuesday, no later than hopefully 4 p.m. With Township Supervisor DePalma or somebody that he designates to talk to me about what went on over the past weekend. Festival will provide the township with a weekend attendance in a timely manner after each weekend, which I think is another issue that's come up in the past that hadn't been taken care of that we're gonna address this year. The Michigan Renaissance Guarantee, as I stated at the last meeting, the Michigan Renaissance Festival is confident the extensive comprehensive measures in place for the 2023 season of the Michigan Renaissance Festival will result in significant improvements in both the traffic flow and the efficiency in parking vehicles compared to 2022 season. The Michigan Renaissance Festival herewith makes the following performance guarantees to Groveland Township. Every component of the traffic plan submitted to the Planning Commission for Groveland Township will be followed in all material aspects. Groveland Township, in their sole discretion, will determine whether or not traffic and parking operated better in 2023 and provide the Renaissance Festival with its findings. If that determination is made that traffic did not improve, MRF will engage the services of a third-party professional firm acceptable to Groveland Township to prepare and distribute a comprehensive traffic management plan. MRF will retain the firm within 45 days of being notified by the Groveland Township of any negative finding. MRF will pay a $300 fee for every incident that occurs that's a violation of the ordinance. If the 2023 is successful, the festival will reevaluate making changes to ensure an even better 2024 season. If Groveland Township feels that the traffic and parking of the 23 season was significantly lacking, then festival will retain respectable traffic engineering firm within 45 days of notice to conduct the TMP to be utilized in 2024. Any questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would like to ask that we open up public comments just for the Renaissance Festival right now, before we go into board comments.
So we should reopen public hearing?
No, public comments are not part of the public hearing.
Comments, okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
public comments.
I'd just like two things to mention, and I've done this on a preliminary video that's I think it's still running.
Yeah.
The two things, just so you know, there won't be any tickets from the township office this year. I'm not getting any, so there won't be any free tickets for those. And the second thing that's on the video is, I'm sure you're all aware by now, that they're doing extensive work for 4 years on I-75 between exit 106 all the way down to where M15 crosses. And it changes every week. I get, like 4 or 5 different lists of which lane they're closing, which viaduct they're closing. All of that's done by MDOT. MDOT doesn't come to us and ask us. They're just, I found a way to get on the list to get it passed on to me. and I send it to Chip and to Jeff, and, I do that so they have some idea what's going on. I am somewhat encouraged by the fact that, MDOT hired a consulting engineer to manage the project who works for Fishback, that's the contractor they hired. So when I called the guy originally, he said, I know all about the festival. My hope is that they are able to adjust which closures they have on which weekends to hopefully minimize it. But the reason I'm bringing it up, and it's in the video that's running right now, is I don't know, and I don't know that they can tell us for sure right now, because a lot of that stuff's scheduled way in advance based on when they can get materials and stuff. So, the caveat to this is, well, we think this is all a significant improvement and should help, especially the miles of stacking that you're putting in. If MDOT decides for whatever reason, they're closing I-75 on a weekend of the festival, you can bet we're gonna get a ton of cars on Dixie and nothing's gonna fix that. So I'm just giving you that in fairness, so you understand what we know about it.
I'm used to it.
Yeah, well, the worst we ever had in all the years they've ever been here was the other time they worked on I-75 and never told us.
I go through it
And
every year.
they closed the freeway down and it all came on Dixie, that was the absolute worst, worse than last year. So, there's that possibility, we hope not, they're certainly aware of it. I just can't tell you for sure what it is, but when I get the notices, Chip gets them the same thing. The other thing I was gonna suggest is I did pass this agreement on to Bill Haas, our attorney, and he sent in his email that I forwarded to you, a suggestion that the Renaissance Festival should hire someone to have a drone fly the traffic, and I think that's good for everybody, because one, if the stacking lanes and all this aren't working, it'll clearly show up in a drone overfly of it. And two, if the problem ends up being I-75's MDOT work jams it up, that'll be pretty easy to pick up on an aerial drone and fly as well. So I would ask that based on the recommendation of the township attorney, you include that in the requirements for this permit year, because I think that's to everybody's advantage. I don't want to have somebody make a speculation and say, well, this weekend was really bad, and it was, the festival didn't do it right, and maybe that was the weekend they closed I-75, I don't know. At least if we have aerial flights for all of the weekends, we'll be able to see clearly how many cars could be handled, what times they were being handled, and all of that. So my suggestion would be to take the township attorney's recommendation and make part of the approval the requirement to fly all 7 weekends, so that we have some data to look at.
Okay. Noted, and thank you, Bob, for that, update and clarification. I guess back to the public comment, this is the point where I would invite anybody who is an affected resident, an interested party, that has concerns or questions for Mr. Schultz or the commission, frankly, to the extent we can answer them. You know, this is where we would invite that dialogue, and I guess just for purposes of, the record keeping, do you want folks to identify themselves, Danielle, or does that not?
As long as everyone is signed in on the, attendance sheet with their name, address, phone number, I'll be good.
You'll be good, okay. So, sir, I don't know your name, but I had
You're on the first house on Perryville Road. Yeah. I just was wondering if they could just put on your, the followers of the website, when something's closed or not to, that there is no entrance off of Perryville Road straight into the Renaissance system. I thought they were gonna have like, Perryville's here and an entrance here, and keep it away from that intersection, because they do fly down and they do fill up the road pretty quick.
When you say they, so this is the entrance across from, this is Perryville Road.
Okay, yep.
So there's that main entrance part of that lot, and then there's the exit that's coming out. So you were under the impression there was another road going in?
I thought there was, well, this
No,
road,
no.
yes. But I was wondering why they don't have a road, maybe like here, and maybe a little bit farther up to bring them in, instead of right on the Perryville Road.
So a lot of this, I think, is because of the and I'm speculating, due to wetlands right in through here, we're probably not.
Yeah,
able to
I understand
put a road
that.
in
you're now gonna have people coming in here, come down here, and
So they
straight through here.
come down to here.
Yeah, they're gonna go straight down, or they go straight, cut, and get straight through Perryville Road.
And they do that van to Perryville to,
Right.
so, you know, that's again, where we're putting up more signage, hopefully directing people, but let me look into adding something to either our Facebook pages or our website itself. Maybe, let me toss that idea around, maybe I can put a map
I mean,
on our Facebook.
that's what
on
we're
our-
fully
on our
expecting.
Facebook.
Last time when it got to capacity, we would just direct them straight
Yeah.
back to Dixie. Because they were all hoping to go straight across. And once now you got three trying to tie in there, it backs up Perryville Road big time.
Oh, no, I've been up there.
Yeah, so, and then like I said, you know, I'm in an outside lane trying to come north on Dixie to turn on Perryville.
Right,
I've got to stop the people parked there and hoping to make a left into the trailer park.
right. Let me see if I can put it on, if I can put a map on our website and on our Facebook page, on our social media, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, something, I almost,
Absolutely.
yeah, if somebody could, I know it's not possible, but if you had an officer at the end where Van Road and Perryville Road is, something to say, hey, it's closed, but I know it's.
So, yeah, I think that's a conversation that Mr. Bowman and I have had, that we can't, cause I was gonna put one at Laren and, forget the cross street. No, in Holly. So
Oh,
they're on-
the other end.
It's the same thing on Laring Road. They get off at the north end Dixie Highway or Holly Road, and they come down Holly Road to Laring in Holly Township and they come across. So, and I put signs out there last year, I put them out Friday, Saturday, gone.
I mean,
Somebody smashed.
yeah, I mean, when it starts to build, they're flying, they gotta be doing about 50, 60 before they hit the Perryville.
Let me look into putting those maps.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
We put something on social
If
media.
everything that you're saying, if that really helps out, that's great. But it's just gonna, there's an inevitability that it's gonna happen. And then we're still stuck, we're like in prison because we can't get out the driveway.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, so.
So we have to go work on that.
Okay, thank you. Wayne, Mr. Pond, did you have a comment?
Well, I just, as far as I saw something was said about, you know, legal parking or something, or illegal parking. But not all the way down Perryville is there no parking signs. I think the end, not too much before that goes down the one hill there. And so, the signs will say no park, it says no parking, but not tollway zone on all the signs. And then, but what do you designate as the tollway zone then? Cause if there's no signs further down Perryville, or something like that, and
By
they start
ordinance.
parking down there.
By
is that-
ordinance, a no parking zone is a tollway zone.
But does it have
So
to
it
be
doesn't-
specified with a sign? I guess is what I'm asking.
It does have to be specified by a sign.
Because what they do before is they just start going further down Perryville and then start parking where there's no signs.
And it's
So
your
how
own.
far out?
I will
do
send
you-
Alex an email tomorrow and ask him about putting some more signs up.
Yeah, it will be hard to get though, because those are traffic control orders, they come from the state police, there's only 2 guys that do the entire state of Michigan, and just, trust me, you'll be old and retired and your grandkids will be out of college before they get some of it done, it just doesn't get done.
I can ask.
You
but-
can ask, but they won't, and the reason is, they have to meet certain criterias that they look at happening all the time in order to put a no parking sign up. So they won't put them up just because somebody wants them, they just don't. And so, what I've said all along is the solution to this problem is fixing it at the source. Getting them into the parking lot fast enough that they don't go all these other ways. We can't just continue to put concentric rings of no parking signs until all of Groveland has a sign. It's just not gonna work and it's not gonna be done, so. I understand what you're saying, and I'm sympathetic to it, but I'm just telling you, you can ask Alex, but he won't even get the guy out there for 2 years, okay? And then he'll come on the day when nobody's there and say, I don't see any parking.
Right.
And they'll be gone for another year, that's just the way they are.
Well, no, I understand, and I'm hoping that a lot of this will solve
Yeah,
that
so
problem.
we need to see it, or fix it.
You know, if it doesn't, then maybe actually we need to look at doing that.
Absolutely.
We've been waiting
Yeah.
we've been dealing with this
Maybe,
now for 30 years.
and my guess is if this doesn't fix it, it'll be some, unless it's the MDOT work, it'll be something else we'll have to do to fix it, but I doubt that the solution is going to ever be concentric rings of no parking signs. It just doesn't, it's not gonna work. But people park there anyways most of the time.
But we also don't wanna see you guys getting sued because, oh golly, it doesn't say the tollway zone.
Doesn't have to, though.
Doesn't
If there's
have
no
to.
parking, it could be done. What I think you saw last year is we had two, they were supposed to be bigger, I don't know if you had Alex make new ones, but at the entrance to Perryville, they were supposed to put big signs that said towaways on Perryville, and they had little tiny ones that if you didn't even know they were there, and I knew they were there, and it took me a while to find them.
Exactly.
So, but that was an extra, and I think you're gonna see if Alex could make bigger
Correct.
ones this year, but they don't have to have that to tow you away.
Do you anticipate simplifying shutdown at enough times?
I gave you as honest an answer as I could. I honestly don't know. I know the engineer is well familiar with the Renaissance Festival. We couldn't have asked for MDOT to hire a better person to be the project manager. I just don't know how, all that stuff in MDOT, we normally don't even see it. So it gets scheduled for years or months ahead of time, and this is a mammoth project to redo 14 miles of I-75, basically from one end to the other.
Well, like I said, I really hope that this does solve it, because, I mean, last year was bad, the year before was, I mean, as I've said before, many times I had to wait 4 hours one day to get my own travel trailer out of my own yard, and drive down the road. And
Well,
the
you have
state
my
police,
phone number, so call me.
well, unfortunately, I tried to call your predecessor there, and,
Call me.
yeah, we'll try to keep that polite.
I have a
but-
direct line right to the sheriffs that are working that day, so if we have a problem, I will have them deployed. to help you.
Well, I can say, you know, that
Really?
You have a card, we don't have any of the numbers, we're not.
I sent you my number.
I don't have-
Did you get the email? Oh, all right, well, I'll get you email. I'll make sure you get
Because like I say, at that time when this happened before, even the state police were ready to blow us off. Until he could not get his own trooper car more than 20 feet down the road. And that's when he finally started to tow cars and things like that. And, you know, if an emergency had to happen to any one of our houses,
it. Right.
we'd have to be
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
Two fires between Dixie and Band in the past 3 years. And if something happens during festival weekend, we're out of luck. You can't even get to your house. I don't understand how you can throw a party and not know how many people are coming.
Well, when
And
you,
then
when
the
you
sheriff's
have,
department,
when you have tickets though,
honestly, it was a joke because they were parking right in front of them.
Mhm.
Right in front of the
Right in
no
front.
parking signs in front of the police. So when you say that's all fine and dandy, nothing happened.
it's being
Didn't
addressed.
happen. Didn't happen.
This year it's being addressed.
I hope so. You know, I lived out here 25 years and trapped in your own home.
Yeah.
And no offense, but that day, you should do it later in the year because.
That was the
that's-
that was the last day, it was 26,000 people, it was the most we had.
We're right, but the survey was done on September 4th.
They redid the survey.
But they adjusted it.
We adjusted the survey based on.
But she said there was no problem on Perryville. So-
No, I think there was a misunderstanding, you can correct me if I'm
Miles
wrong.
of cars
She
up there.
was looking at the capability of the road system to handle the traffic.
Right.
Assuming there's no traffic signals. This plan addresses the part that's inside the parking lot to get it off.
Right.
So when she said there's no problem, she means the road should handle that much traffic. The problem's been, and it has been all along, is it can't get them off the road fast enough into there, and that's what all these other changes are for. So,
Correct, yep.
I understood what you were
Yes,
saying, because I've
thank
been
you.
doing this a
And
long
you're
time.
right, there's a lot of people coming, just one, cause you can just stand out there and laugh, it's hilarious that all these people, I'm like, what? You
I
know,
found it to be
and one or
absolutely
two
crazy
people in a car.
parking those cars and seeing one person here, two people there, and I'm like, and then you would see them go meet up with somebody else in the
Exactly.
parking lot, and I'm like, why didn't you guys just drive together? It would make so much more sense, but I think COVID was a factor into some of that logical thinking, because we saw people pulling in with masks on, stuff like that, so hopefully they
You
should
should drive all the way to Culver's and Grand Blanc. My wife and I went to the show and there was a table, I said, excuse me, were you guys at the festival? Oh yeah, you can tell, huh?
So everything we're doing this year is to alleviate those traffic problems. There's some things that, I was sitting looking at my computer screen, I'm doing the festival in Florida, and I'm looking at the Queens lot on my computer, and it like hit me. We've been parking this lot completely wrong all these years. and this is what's creating our backup. So by adjusting it, 20 people in the parking lot versus 5 to 6, it's gonna be huge advantage for us. By adjusting the way that we're parking these lots, I truly believe is gonna alleviate a lot of these backup issues that we have going forward. And if not, we'll, Richie and I are in constant conversation, we'll make adjustments. And I do wanna hear from you.
I have a question for you.
Sir, can I, this gentleman right here has been very.
Yes, he has.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I live straight across from the Rotten Mountain,
Okay,
their exit.
yeah,
Okay, I've had hail for, last year was worse. Okay, I work to the south, I come in 1 o'clock. It takes me 2-3 hours to get to my house. That's once I get to Grange Hall.
once you get to Grand Charter.
I've tried everything, you try to come down, the right lane is through traffic, well, these people trying to get in the trailer park, and these people trying to cut the line to get into the festival, so you get jammed up, you can't get through there. So I've tried to trip road to Perryville, but when I come out on Perryville to Dixie, they won't let me turn left. I've gotta go right, so that don't improve nothing for me,
Yeah.
because it's backed up all the way to 75. So, I
How do
don't
we
know.
fix that problem?
I don't know what the hell to do. I mean, you hate to work all day, go to work at 5 in the morning and then spend 3 damn hours after
Trying
you
to
get
get
home
home.
to get to your driveway. That's,
Sir, did you have one of the flags in your vehicle?
no, I don't have nothing in there.
No?
Come to the office and get a flag.
Where's the office at? Okay.
So what is your name? I'm sorry.
Timothy Gunner, I'm wrote down on there,
You did, okay.
13210 Dixie.
And Mr. Gunner, thank you for coming tonight. I would highly recommend that you get a flag for your vehicle. That would be.
See, if I try to run the right lane down and cut in my driveway, half the damn people, they think, well, you wanna cut in line in front of me, so you don't, they won't let you in. You have some people that will, but the other people, they think you're,
I can't imagine the frustration.
They're rude.
Um,
Those people are rude.
Sir,
I know, yeah.
Did you have another question? No? Thank
Mr.
you
Perez?
also for your comments earlier.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming tonight.
I got a couple, questions to ask. Your road that you guys just put in,
The
your
exit.
exit road,
Mhm.
okay? You said that you were going to be bringing people in there to park,
Worst case scenario.
okay? Well, going north on Dixie Highway,
Okay.
if you're taking one lane and putting people in there, how are you gonna also continue to
Sure.
let them go into the other lane?
So the plan will be, when we move this deputy here, he's gonna start pushing this traffic in. So we have about a 1/4 mile of traffic right here that's gonna come in and flow in. Excuse me, when he sees there's no more traffic left here, he's gonna push more cars down here. That won't take but probably 30 seconds, to be honest with you. I've watched that traffic move out there. So then, once this gets back up to here again, they'll start flowing this in. So it's gonna be a simultaneous flowing in. So as these cars are going in, he's gonna be parking cars here. This empties, there's no more traffic here, he's gonna open this back up, flow some
Cause I
cars
can
down.
foresee, you got 2 lanes, these guys are going in there, these people are gonna want to go straight, so now you got 2 lanes jammed up where.
So we're gonna have to, that deputy's just gonna have to be a strong
Right,
willed person standing there and not allowing anybody to go past them, unless they're in that outside lane and they're going straight, because we don't allow any access into the main lot when you're going north of Dixie Highway, so.
You are allowing a deputy at the mobile home drive, aren't you? Because
Yes,
that
sir.
was a problem last year, okay?
Yeah, and those
Now-
busier weekends, we're gonna put one there.
how have you addressed the issue coming from the south, if you're coming south, all right? I go to Grand Blanc all the time,
Mhm.
that's basically where I'm going to Holly. So, you have a top of the hill where you got 75, people getting off on 75 from the fast lane, all right? You have 2 lanes, and you got 1 lane coming from Grand Blanc. Those both lanes coming over that hill are jammed, you can't get by anybody. You-
Again, we're gonna put signage out there,
Okay,
festival traffic, right lane only. We can only do that, and hope that, again, we're counting on people to follow direction.
But all of them.
Not all of them. So it's gonna be a matter of signage. The owner, Mr. Peterson, is big on signs, and he started it last year. There was some that didn't get done. Again, we're gonna continue it this year. We wanna add so much, you should not have to know you shouldn't have to use your GPS to get to the festival with the amount of signage that we're gonna be putting out on DC Highway. But, and what's crazy is, We have probably an 80% return, if I had to guess off the top of my head. An 80 to a 90% return customers. Why do they even need to use GPS? Other than to try to figure out a way around the traffic to get in. And they don't get in any faster, because we don't allow them. I try not to allow them to just cut across from Perryville Road. It's not fair. Those people have been waiting in line. We want to take care of those people that have been waiting. So they're gonna have to go up and turn around and then get in the line and get in the festival.
My other question is, you have employed, buyers, is it?
Well, they have a contract with the sheriff's office.
Okay. How many people are they gonna have employed on the weekend to be towing? Is it just gonna be 2 guys?
No, I would have to
2
ask,
trucks?
Mr. Byers is very respectful. He can have 10 if I need it. I also can contact Trevino Tony up in Grand Blanc right here on Baldwin Road. I have his business card. He's told me anytime you need me, call me. So if we have to call a second and a third, we'll call a
Buyers will
second.
bring the rest of them in from all.
But buyers will bring them in from, buyers on a very large, Rochester Hills, Auburn Hills.
Right.
So he's got the trucks to move cars if we had to move cars.
Now, what about the lot that's next to the fire station?
Mhm.
What's your contingency if that fills up?
I would hope that doesn't fill up, but,
We've had a lot of cars, I don't think we've ever.
I don't think
had
we've
that full.
ever, so if people don't know the history, that was actually put there for festival because we had this issue 10, 15 years ago. I was on the fire department then too, so. It's
I
20
think when it
years ago.
filled, they took it to buyers lot.
Yeah, if it fills, then we just take it down to the buyer's lot and they gotta pick it up there.
Sir? Michigan State?
Oh, what about the DNR? Has anybody contacted them? Because they filled up the parking lots last year down Perryville. And
The public,
the public
all the public.
was all full last year too.
Say this again?
Really?
The
You're the
DNR
first person to
parking
tell me
lots
that.
Yeah.
that are down Perryville, there's state
The hunting.
parking lots, the one next to the self-storage place on Dixie, and then there's 2 down Perryville, and those were packed. And they weren't wearing camo.
Let me,
It's
so,
kinda-
let me look into the possibilities
Cause I called the
of
rat
creating our
hotline
own
too,
signs
cause I was like,
to put there. that say
I'm
no
calling
festival.
everybody I know, I can't get out of my house.
Yeah, they were parking in those
Yeah.
lots.
Okay.
And
Let me see if
I
I put something.
think lots of
The
cars.
storage space talking about is actually the first place out of Groveland,
I believe
so
so.
it's probably great.
That's okay.
Yes,
Well, yeah.
Oh, is there a lot between?
Okay, so I just wondered, what price amount you landed on for, the parking, if it, to be enough of a deterrent to people to drive separately?
Right now, we're starting at $10 a car.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Euclid?
Last planning commission, Neil made comments about cutting off walking traffic. And I wondered if you revisited that anymore, because if you, for example, if you have to close the gate, and those cars are traveling up and down Dixie with the idea that you're gonna reopen them in an hour, creates its own problem. But if you can then go down Perryville, park and walk and still get in, or get in easier. So I think that's what Neil was talking about
It was.
last week.
It was. So I've been scratching my head trying to figure out the answer to Mr. McLaughlin's question. One, since the gates will be closed, sheriff's office really won't be doing anything but watching traffic on Dixie Highway. They'll be able to patrol those side streets, watching for people walking, sending them back to their cars.
But have them get in as they go by.
What's that?
Get in their car as they go by.
As they go by. They're gonna be forewarning people. Last year, I actually had, some of my, I have what's called a public relations. You might remember, my area monitors, costume security that I have out on festival grounds. Last year, I actually had 2 of them with, blowhorns, walking the path to festival, telling people, if your car is parked on a side street or in an illegal parking zone, your vehicle is subject to be towed, you may wanna go move it, something along that line. Actually, I think I recorded it, and then you just hit the play button. So you have to say it all the time. And people did turn around and go back out and get to their cars. The one thing that we have to remember is, And unfortunately, Dixie Highway is a public road. People can walk up and down Dixie Highway all they want. You can't stop them from doing that. Can we try to deter them? Yes. And that's what the sheriff's office will do. We'll put signs out at the entrances that also read, if you parked somewhere and walked in, you're not, go move your car, you gotta park on festival grounds. Something along that lines, to say you have to park on festival grounds or a designated festival parking lot. I think that's the only way that we can deter that.
I wish you would, Jim. Mr. Christopher, please.
Chip, is it possible, and do you think there'd be any sense in putting on the ticket some language that connotes no walking traffic?
It's possible. The only,
I get the confusion, meaning like, well, how the hell do we get in, but it could be phrased somehow. If you think it'll help.
I know it's a great idea, and it's something I can talk to our graphics girl about, and the owner, to put something in like no foot traffic. It would just be a matter of, the ticket already gets kind of compressed with dates and information, so where do we put it where people can read it? And see, are they gonna pay attention? Because I'll be honest with you, I used to hand out comp tickets like candy, and, you know, you'd hand them off to somebody, they put them in their pocket, and they don't read it, they just know they can.
I mean, if I was gonna go, I would walk. I mean, I would wanna get on the road, I mean, I live right there.
You're the exception to the rule.
Which,
I don't think you're worried, just you walk.
Yes, you're saying.
My only fear is that, hey, it's gonna cost me an extra $10, I'm gonna park on Berryville, and I'll just walk in, save myself $10.
We'll be monitoring, then that's what we're gonna be monitoring.
Yes, yes.
Anytime, now it's gonna cost you $300. So the sheriff's office will know that if they start seeing people walking, and we know that our parking lot's still available, well, even if it's not still available,
Send out the trucks.
there's a problem, right? They need to be questioned. Why are you,
Verbally.
yes, why are you walking into the festival? Where did you
Because
park?
you look at festival property on 3 sides, you guys do an excellent job of keeping anybody from walking in, right? They don't sneak in on any of those sides. You should be able to do the exact same thing along Dixie.
Yeah, we'll be monitoring that. That's the nice, so again, I'm gonna go back to Richie and Elite Parking. 40 people a day.
Yes.
That now lets me use my 13 to 15 deputies. And maybe some of those positions used to be helping wrangle the cars to stay in line or to park properly. Now I can utilize those deputies back out on Dixie Highway, doing what they're supposed to be doing, that they're contracted for, and that is traffic on Dixie Highway.
Thank you.
So Chip, to her point, and I guess maybe to echo a lot of the sentiments here of the affected residents, how does it work, or how would you envision the plan to respond to the scenario that she just pointed out? Like, people don't wanna pay the parking fee, so they're just gonna take the cheap out and they're gonna park somewhere other than in the lot. What happens in that scenario?
Those people will be directed back to their cars.
By,
Sheriff's office.
on Perryville?
Because we're sitting right there. There's 2 deputies at Perryville and Dixie, and there's 2 to 3 deputies right at the main entrance. Plus, we also have roaming deputies.
So they see foot traffic.
They see foot traffic, they
Okay.
address it. I see you're walking, where are you walking from? Where did you park your car?
Okay, and the residents would have an opportunity built into the system to notify you?
Absolutely. Call, text, email.
And then if the deputies are advised, or the residents advise you, how are the people who are walking then prohibited from, how does the hypothetical further play out? Then are tow trucks dispatched at that point, or is there a verbal command from a deputy, like back to your vehicle?
Yes. Deputies will tell them to go back to their vehicle. You can't park on Perryville Road, you can't park on Holders Road, you can't park on Dixie Highway, even though there's 100 no parking signs. They'll be pushed back to their vehicle, and if they choose to ignore, it's MCL 627, disobeying the direct order of a police officer. Not only will their car be towed and ticketed, they'll also be issued a citation for disobeying an order of a police officer. So pay the $10, because if not, you're gonna pay the impound fee, and then you're gonna have 2 tickets on top of that.
So there are means built into the proposal here to deal with that
Yes, sir.
sitting rate.
What's,
Quick one, sorry, Jake. Go ahead.
how are you gonna deal with people, people are gonna be stunned that they're gonna have to pay parking, and they're not gonna know it.
So, and that was, I just spoke to our reps in Minnesota, because Minnesota is also charging for parking this year. And I asked them, how are you guys addressing this? Because we want to get the word out. I want to start, I want to start tomorrow. Can I get my graphics department and my marketing department on the same page? I'm hoping that I can, and we can get it on Facebook and Twitter and all of those. It's gonna be, we're sending out, we do a lot of corporate work. So every corporation that buys tickets from us will get a letter specifying they're gonna have to charge, they're gonna be charged for parking. They told me that when they put the word out last week in Minnesota, she said, just hold on to your hat, cause your phone's gonna ring off the hook and your email's gonna get blown up. So we will address all of those. We're gonna get phone calls, we're gonna get the emails. There's gonna be signs on every entrance that says parking $10. So it should be no surprise to anybody when they pull into the parking lot and Richie has parked them, that they gotta pay.
What about like, announce it on like a radio station or something?
We do have some marketing that we do on radio stations, and that's one of the things I'll be talking to our marketing girl about. It's a great idea.
Have you thought about putting it on the digital signs?
We can do that as well. I didn't think about that, but
When
as soon as
they're
I get
driving,
these,
Yeah.
as soon as I get these minutes.
On the way there.
I'm making you your own.
Yeah,
site.
they're not gonna be
Thank you, I appreciate it.
They're not gonna be happy.
They're not gonna be happy, but you know, you'd be surprised, again, having been out in the parking lot the last few years parking, you'd be surprised how many people ask me where they pay to park. So I think people expect it, and you have to, yes, we've never charged for parking. That's been one of the owner's, pride and joys, that he's never charged people to park, but he does understand we have to change with the time. You know, you have to park, you pay for parking at Comerica, you pay for parking at the Lions, you pay for parking at the 4-H fair. Did anybody go to the Grand Blanc Fair? Do they charge for parking up there? I don't know. But anywhere you go, they charge for the Allied Challenge, right? So people really just need to, yes, we haven't charged for parking, but anywhere else you go, there is a fee. It's just gonna be one of those, get the word out, and it's one of those changes that people may not like initially, but they'll get used to it, and they'll do it.
Question behind you, Chip, Ben?
I have a question. Last year, I remember seeing people, I don't know if they were there was the trailer park or something, but they had a sign out that you could park there. And I don't know, was it $10 or $5 or something? And my question is, those people are gonna think they're paying parking and they're gonna walk in, so according to their walk-in, will the deputies know, hey?
So
There's a
here's
bunch
the-
of models on that part of the property right now.
I saw that.
Oh, that's true, maybe they'll keep them
So
there.
here's the thing on that, if people aren't aware, when somebody like Groveland Manor, well, now I'll pick on Rotten Manor for a second, but he knows better. Well, you know, I think, you know, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong. Years ago, I think under the last I-75 project, we had people charging for parking across the street from us. That's actually a violation of your township ordinance. You have to be sitting here to get a parking permit. So when Groveland Manor does that, it's a violation of the parking.
Okay. So you
Looks
might,
like you're asking for parking permit.
Everybody else has to as well.
There's a hand in the back.
I know you're affiliated somehow with the sheriff's department,
I'm a
correct?
detective.
Okay. Has the situation been resolved between what the sheriff's department is supposed to handle? Because not last year, but the year before, when it got really bad, like I said, I was waiting 4 hours to get out my own driveway. There was a sheriff car going down Perryville, and I stopped him, and I'm talking to him, asking for his help, that I needed to get out. He pretty much just drove off, said it's not my responsibility, we're not here to handle the traffic on Perryville. And as I'm talking to him, he just drove off
And I apologize.
and left us hanging. We're supposed to call state police. The state police come out and say, well, this isn't our jurisdiction, this is theirs. And, here we are stuck in the middle, so
If I
is
can
that been
help-
resolved?
If I can help clarify that, and you weren't at the one meeting.
No, you've had I've been out of town every week.
I'm sorry. So, to put it in a perspective, the sheriff's office contract calls for them to handle the traffic on Dixie Highway from Groveland Manor to Laren Road. That ultimately is what they are responsible for, both sides of Dixie Highway. The state police, because that's who covers your township, is responsible for everything else. Problem you have, I won't even get into it, it's a political problem.
Mhm.
It's a state police versus the county issue that really doesn't need to be. But our focus this year and the years to come will be, and the deputies are gonna be aware of this. Traffic on Perryville Road is no different than traffic on Dixie Highway. Those people are coming to festival. Festival is your responsibility.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying, if you have a problem on Perryville Road, I want a phone call.
Okay.
I want the call that says where traffic is here and we need a deputy. I will make sure that the deputy comes down there and addresses those issues. If he doesn't, I will come and address those issues myself. Because all I gotta do is change hats, throw my badge on, and I'll have the vehicle in town.
Well, I appreciate it. The last time when I was told that by predecessor, I tried calling, all magic, all the phones weren't working that day.
You all have my
So,
phone number.
Yeah, just as long as we've got a means to rectify, because like I said, hey, the state police chief were ready to blow us off. So it just gets frustrating when.
So the gentleman in the back is a retired sergeant from my department, so.
Sorry, Chip. What he was talking about, I remember hearing about, state police were there, we can't do it, sheriff's department was there, we couldn't do it. When you do your first couple weekends, and you start the new traffic thing, where you're pumping the cars in and getting them off the road, that's gonna work, but you're still gonna have the 80% that are returnees who come back, there's still gonna be people who run Perryville and park there and think they're gonna scoot in there. What effect do you think it'll have, and have you ever done it before, where you go in and you tow 10 cars right off the bat, right past that front entrance, right past all those cars, and you yank them out of there right away, and let them know it's different?
Yeah, no,
If
it's just
you're
gonna happen.
not doing it, then they don't believe you until they're watching their
So
cars go by.
that is exactly what's gonna happen, but that is the plan this year.
And that would have happened last year. There was a compound problem that I don't know how I could have ever foreseen it. I must have talked to every MSB trooper I ever saw in our detachment and sent emails and talked to the lieutenant post commander about it and had everybody agree and met with buyers towing with the MSB. And somehow the sergeant on the afternoon shift didn't know it. And so he wouldn't let them tow. I had 9 tow trucks parked directly across from the Perryville gate, waiting to tow cars, and the guy towed 1 car, when the only cop apparently that didn't know about it was on
Working
duty.
that afternoon. Probably the same sergeant who insists on calling the state police fire
You can't trust the
department
sergeant.
when I'm already on scene.
Sometimes, I mean, you can, I would stop down at the fire station in the morning when the traffic showed up and catch the guys in the parking lot. You know about what we're gonna do this year, right? Yeah, we're all set, don't worry, got a lot of. And then you get one guy that doesn't know that's on the shift when a bunch of cars show up and they don't do it, so
I mean,
sometimes.
you got a phone number you can call the state police?
It's just not that easy, cause it
Well, I
depends
know.
where they are. There's a couple of
We
them
want it.
that are, if they're working somewhere, yeah, but by the time I get a hold of the lieutenant, and he's probably at home when I'm getting them, and he gets a hold of whoever's covering it, and gets back to the guys, and you thought, I've already talked to 4 or 5 state police people on this, I can't imagine they don't know, and the last 2 guys I saw said, yeah, we got a bunch of emails. So.
Okay. As we continue with public comment, Ben?
Sorry.
As we continue with public comment, does anyone else here in the room have any questions or concerns they'd like to express? I want to make sure everyone has a fair opportunity to
I
speak.
got one more question to ask, if I may.
Yes, sir.
It's for Chip. When they're leaving at the end of the day, is it just the one exit that they come out?
For the south lot, yes.
What about for going, I guess my question is, I get a ton of people that turn around in my driveway. And I've got
Which
to
is
park,
crazy.
and I have to park a car across the driveway with a trailer behind it, so they don't all turn around in my driveway. Once in a while, that's fine, but it's really excessive. So they turn around because they want to go a certain direction to get to 75. So when they leave, are they gonna be directed, anybody wants to go south know about it, and anybody wants to go north know about it before they even leave the
So if you
line?
take a drive out to our site,
Okay,
you come down this road, you'll see signs that say I-75 north and south, going that way. if you go to the Kings lot, and you come down the main drive, you'll see signs that say I-75 north and south that way. So we're directing them to I-75. They're just not following. But here's even the crazier part. We parked these two parking lots for a particular reason, the way that we do it. And we started doing this about 8 to 10 years ago. Cars coming in here get parked here. Cars coming down here get parked in the Kings lot. They're only allowed to go this way because it's the way they came, right? So you would hope that every car that gets parked in here is leaving the same way that they came, same with the north lot. But you're right, some people pull out and they're like, that's the way you came, why don't you just pull back the way you did? But we do telling people that you can access I-75 both directions, that way.
I just wonder if.
And you shouldn't see it anymore, you really shouldn't. Did you have that problem last year? Because these people, there shouldn't be anybody coming out of here, unless it's a busy day and we have to.
When it was real busy, they closed the gates, and then everybody that came down Perryville Road were forced onto Dixie, but when they leave, I don't know why they can't, I would just go one way for north only, and one way for south only, and then why they had to go up Perryville Road to turn around to go the other direction, I was,
Other than if they got turned around inside here somehow, but that's why we're gonna add extra signs telling people which direction to go. Anybody else? I'm here all night. Go on.
No.
10 more minutes.
At this point,
Are we all going to get a?
well, I was just gonna, at this point, we can close the public comment portion of the meeting?
Yes.
And then go back on the record for.
I mean, if someone has a comment, feel free to wait till the very, very end, because we did it out of order. Public comments are usually public comments, then adjournment. So we can move forward with the board, how they feel about everything, and then move on with the rest of the agenda.
Okay, do we have to reopen public hearing?
No, because you are making your decision.
I wanna compliment you, Rick, Skip, for what
Chip.
you have done.
It's okay.
I mean, I think that getting them off and maybe driving all over the parking lot, good, you're getting them off. Thank you, thank
You're
you,
welcome.
thank you. I think you've gone, hopefully fixed the problem.
That is.
And I hope for the residents, you don't have problems. I feel sorry for you, but thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to reiterate something we discussed last week. The property, the new roads, everything is in place right now.
They have the guy working on that. I have not been to the site in a couple of weeks. I went on vacation, to Jim's dismay, but I went on vacation. And, the guy is supposed to be out there grading what we're gonna call the new roads.
The intent is to have everything in place by opening.
I want everything in place 2 weeks before.
Right, again, just again for the
Yes.
general information, these roads are planned on being in place day one.
Yep, Mr. Peterson's met with the guy doing it like 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Jim?
So I'm gonna try to weave some thread of development here, you guys may have to work with me on this. So my inner egghead wants to see some type of, for lack of a better word, absorption rate of cars onto the site. Something that numerically will convince me that these guys totally have their poop in a group, and I think they do. Do we have any of that information? Like how many cars can you grab off the road that apparently works just fine? Something to prove what you're saying.
No, I agree with you.
I don't have, that's out of our expertise.
Okay.
I think Jim's asking for a number that hasn't happened yet, because we have new roads and new processes.
Right, and you know, Jim, to kind of try to answer your question in a way, I don't know. And I drive down Dixie Highway every day to go to work. And I was thinking, if I sat at this intersection and watched cars turn from the time the light turned green, and I counted how many cars came through this intersection and at what rate of speed and the number, would that be able to give me an idea? If a sheriff's deputy is standing on Dixie Highway and he's doing this, could I get an idea of how many cars, and that's what you're asking,
I think so,
is
yeah.
how many cars is the sheriff's department dumping into, off of Dixie Highway at a minute? And I think we could actually, Haley, couldn't we take, a number turning in off of Dixie Highway at a specific hour?
Yeah, that's what our peak hour analysis is, so each of the peaks that we have in the report is an AM hour, that's the highest peak in the AM, a midday hour of traffic, and a PM. So we have the data of people turning in and out of those driveways.
So we almost could say, if 600 cars turn in in an hour into the north lot, we could break that down into how many cars per minute.
Trying to do the, 10 minutes. 10 a minute.
10 cars a minute, which I can tell you right now is that's
A little
way
high.
low.
That's way low,
I think that's
okay.
low. I think we can hit 20 to 25 cars in a minute coming in off of Davis. Having stand there and had the brown uniform on, directing that traffic, I would take a guess that we could do 20. And I'm gonna stand out there and do that this year to see, with no traffic flowing in any other direction, but just traffic coming in Dixie Highway. I'm gonna get that number.
So
I'm gonna figure it
so
out. I think about 25, 30 cars a minute.
You gotta account for people going to their residence too, where they gotta stop.
Yeah, we're talking about, like, if they're coming north up, Dixie Highway and they're pulling the festival, not everybody going straight. Their numbers have that as well, but how many cars can turn unobstructed into the festival is what I think you're
And
asking,
then-
and I think it's 25.
And it would be up to this gentleman's team, how many can you park in a minute? Do you have any ideas? I mean, I hear all this, I'm leaning
Cal
towards
just said a
taking it
lot more than that.
on faith, but we've taken stuff on faith before, and I have to answer to the people out here. We need some type of numeric assurance. Any ideas? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, this is great. So our secret sauce for the Renaissance Festival parking, when it's at peak times, is 35 years of experience. If all of you, there are 6 of you here, were all to pull in the same lane in Kroger, we gotta wait for Mr. Newbill to park.
And he's really slow.
Drive a truck. And then Ms. Schenk is gonna have to wait, and so on and so on and so on. So our secret sauce to this is gonna be to spread that, right? So we'll send 3 or 4 cars that way, 3 or 4 cars that way, 3 or 4 cars that way. So everything's just moving a lot faster. My guys do it. So I'll go into the same corner and park 10 cars. Guys, spread out.
Yeah.
So we'll force them to do that, right?
Okay.
I think the rate's gonna be about the same.
And just, you know what
But it's
I'm
a good
looking
question.
for. So,
I'm gonna do that study.
It's on your list.
So,
It's on my list.
Jenny, any questions?
I'm good. That's good.
I guess my question would be for you, Richie, and it goes back to the agreement that I referenced earlier. There's provisions in there that speak to staffing and the expectation that there'll be, 40 staff there. That's a minimum, or is that an average, or what's the expectation with regard to staffing contractual?
We built, recently, we've had this discussion about a month ago, and we wanna put an OB in place if it hasn't been yet. If we anticipate more, then we are allowed to have another 5 or 10 team members. Based on the weather, based on the weekend, is it the last 4, 5, 6 weeks? Is it gonna be 72 on a Saturday at 1 o'clock?
And I appreciate that, but is there a minimum? There's a, as I read the
Yes.
agreement, yes, because there's a provision in here, a penalty clause. If the staffing is below a redacted amount for a daily requirement, why is that number not disclosed, I guess would be my question. Why is that
And our attorney is the one who redacted.
Right,
so-
that number could be 5 for
It's,
all we know.
so, The agreement is Richie and I will discuss it to be we'll talk like on a Wednesday. And we're gonna look at the weather, we're gonna look at the weekend coming up, and we'll talk about it and we'll say, hey, they're calling for thunderstorms all weekend long, temperature's gonna be in the 50s. Let's play it by ear, but we may not need 40 people on Saturday. But here's what I do need, and this is gonna be the number that I need. We do have a clause.
Even with that, Chip, the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, we're gonna do 40.
Right, so those busier weekends traditionally, it's gonna be 40 or plus or more.
Right.
There is a provision in our agreement with Richie that does allow for, if, I tell Richie I need 40 people, and one of his people gets sick, or 2 of his people are sick and they don't come in that day. There's a provision in the agreement with him that allows him a percentage of people to be missing and still get paid by us. But what will happen in the interim is, if he has 1, and I think it's only 3 or 4 people.
I think it's 4.
It's 4 people, which would allow him to not suffer financially. If he hits 5, he's gonna suffer financially, which then forces him to fill those numbers. I will, if we have to, I will supplement my own staff to go assist him with parking.
Well, that's not, I appreciate it, Chip, but
Think
that's not
I-
very reassuring, right? I mean, if you speak about the secret sauce and there's a couple ingredients missing, we got problems, so. And I guess the addition of Elite was a very welcome change for 2020, okay? But to know that, sir, what was the last big event your company has handled, if I can ask? Outdoor festival. Can we ask those questions? Because I'm curious to know.
Of course, like most recent?
Yes.
Dan Gilbert's son's funeral.
Okay, and that was an outdoor event that, how many cars? That was a single day, obviously, correct?
It was 2 hours.
2 hours?
In and out.
Okay.
Probably works like St. Mary's Fair, it'd probably be an equivalent.
was in the
But we had 1,100 cars at Mr. Gilbert's.
I guess my concern would speak to staffing concerns, because in the past, last year, there was an utter failure of staffing internally that led to a boilover of concerns on the public thoroughfares. So I don't wanna hear that that's replicated, because there's staffing issues that were not anticipated.
And that's why we have the provision in there that tells him, you have to have X or you're not getting paid.
And is X, is it a quantifiable for?
I think it's 85%.
85% of whatever, so if you take 40 people, it's gonna tell us what 85% of 40 is.
34.
So 6 people.
Okay.
Before we have some serious concerns. And he knows that if he dips below that,
I got you.
he's not gonna get paid.
So at
So it's
least-
lost revenue for him not to fulfill
Okay, so
all those
that's the
positions.
carrot and the stick, right?
That's the carrot and stick.
Right, so the elite's compensation is tied to a percentage of people who actually show up on event days.
Correct.
Correct? And that number is dictated by the festival on an advanced basis as to
Correct.
how many people they want there that weekend.
Correct.
And that's acceptable to elite, to be told midweek, you need to have so many people here on Saturday? You can, and that's a Tuesday, you say, for a?
Tuesday, Wednesday, him and I will talk and determine.
But with the understanding, the 4th, 5th, and 6th week, we're doing 40.
Oh, I understand, okay.
So
No,
we're probably not gonna, if anything, we'll add, right?
And you have the ability, the capacity, the staff to do that?
At over 100 people.
Okay. I think what Jim echoed, again, lesser compared to last year, there is a huge element of leap of faith here. We're taking a lot of assurances and representations at arm's length, which is all you can do. You got a question?
No,
You're right, Mr. Fenton, and you're taking a huge leap of faith, and we appreciate that, and that's why we, the festival, are making the changes that we're making this year. These are changes that, these are gonna be, I think someone asked, what are you gonna do when the phone calls start coming in? You know, the not using the comp tickets, the parking, charging for parking, the way that we're doing some things this year are gonna be.
I think they're substantive, I think they are targeted, I hope they yield some favorable returns. One other concern I had was with regard to the exchange of money on the parking fares. You're gonna have a separate company?
Yes.
That's gonna be taking compensation from the attendees?
Yes.
Not elite staff?
No.
And what about the scenario where somebody's vehicle is on-prem and they don't pay?
Well, we have a problem.
Mr. Peterson told me he knows there's gonna be some of that.
And so what's the plan B, the contingency for the non-payer who's in the lot?
That will have to be, that's not something that Mr. Peterson and I have discussed, because we're hoping that everybody will pay. Which, yeah, so that's something that we're gonna have to work on, internally on our end to say, what are we gonna do with somebody, are we gonna force them to leave, are we going to?
Was St. Mary's, not to interrupt you, Chip, I'm sorry, was St. Mary's Fair, was that a paid parking event?
The first 6 years it was, out of my 15 years there.
And was there a separate vendor that handled the compensation?
The miles and parents, yeah, they did.
Okay. And that didn't inhibit the ability of your staff to park vehicles? No?
Do they do it at the gate?
Yeah.
So they did it at the entrance.
Which
When
is
I met with Mr. Peterson, I think he was fully aware that implementing this the first year, there might be some problems. I think the sense of my discussion with him was, I realize a few people ain't gonna pay for parking.
But again, the priority for our problem is you're going to get the cars in and park them,
That's
but
our-
then deal with the.
Then we'll deal
payment.
with that.
People
So if
can
somebody
stand
gets up
around
and leaves their
inside
car
the
and there's no
park,
one
I
there
don't
and you
care.
can collect it,
He's gonna
you're
get the
gonna have a hard
cars
time
parked
getting there, right?
and get them off Dixie.
That's the key. I could give you my opinion is, I don't care if they pay or not. The bigger issue is getting them off Dixie Highway and getting them parked.
But again, you said you're gonna have big signs that say $10
Yes.
parking per car.
Yep, $10 parking.
I mean, they
per car.
can't miss it.
They're not gonna, they shouldn't, but.
Who knows?
Anyone else on the commission have a question or concern to express? No? So, Danielle, at this point,
You
I
can
don't know,
recommend
according
approval?
to the agenda, I think we're to the point where we could entertain a motion for some action on the proposed permit.
Mhm.
So I'll look to my fellow commissioners, if somebody would step forward.
I'll take a
Be willing
shot
to
at
do
it.
that for me. Thank you, Brother Lockland.
I would like to make a motion to approve special use permit SU 23-0001 for Michigan Renaissance Festival for the 2023 season.
You gotta recommend it for the board has to approve it,
Right,
so you.
we make a recommendation to the board.
Yeah.
Recommend to the township board approval of permit SU 23-0001.
Any conditions, like the drone.
Yes, the drone. Put in there the drone, and I'll second it.
And add a drone to be paid for by the Renaissance Festival to monitor traffic throughout the festival.
Yeah, throughout, Duncan.
Anything else?
Second.
No, just a second.
So you have the motion
I got
that's
the
been
motion.
presented
Yes.
for consideration, seconded by Ms. Shank?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Shouldn't we do it, Should we do that one or personal?
We can do a roll call.
Roll call, I think roll call would be better.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay, Jeff Benzine,
Yes.
Lynn Shank,
Yes, ma'am.
David Newbell,
Yes.
Jim Christopher,
No.
Jenny McKay,
Yes.
Neil Lottman.
Yes.
Majority.
Okay, so the motion as stated has been approved for recommendation to the Township Board of approval of the special use permit 2023 for the Michigan Renaissance Festival. And I guess with that, returning to the agenda, there being no further items on tonight's agenda. I would entertain, unless there's further questions or comments before we. I think we threw the public comment
We
up
did.
earlier.
Yes,
So-
and there's nothing else on the agenda, so I don't, if,
I don't.
Okay, neither do
Okay. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I make a motion, we adjourn, y'all. How about it?
I'll second.
Duncan?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, meeting adjourned.